Foxconn is not a sweatshop. I mean, you go to this place and it's a factory, but my gosh, I mean, they've got restaurants and movie theaters and hospitals and swimming pools, and I mean, for a factory, it's a pretty nice factory.
In these factories, Foxconn, Apple's main subcontractor, assembles iPods, iPhones, and iPads. Legendary products that have sent this American company's profits skyrocketing. Over the last 2 years, Foxconn has been at the center of many scandals: riots, accidents, forced labor, and even a wave of suicides. This company, which employs more than 1 million workers, never ceases to attract attention. We wanted to find out what was really going on in these Foxconn factories. Our investigation begins in Shenzhen, in the south of China. It was here 30 years ago that the Chinese leadership launched the opening up of its economy. And it's here that Foxconn, a Taiwanese company, established its factories in China. Today, with 1,400,000 workers, it's the #1 private employer in the country. According to Xu Hui, it is above all a company that uses brutal management methods. A researcher at a Canton university, he's been investigating Foxconn for 2 years and even worked there for several weeks to discover how they operate.
To go from the north to the south entrance, you have to take a bus that makes quite a few stops. By taxi, it takes about 15 minutes. Inside, there are between 200 and 300,000 people. This is the first factory that Foxconn built in China in the 90s, and it's also where the company's headquarters are located.
Can we get closer and film?
No, the guards will chase you away. This is where the latest Apple products are made. So they can't just let anybody inside. It's a way of protecting commercial secrets.
In this factory, Foxconn also assembles products for Amazon, Hewlett-Packard, and Nokia. But Apple represents 40% of production. It's Foxconn's principal client.
Foxconn's management uses violent tactics. It's often said that they work like the mafia. Every morning there's a meeting. Its main purpose is to insult the employees for various reasons, either for not working fast enough, or for fooling with their cell phones, or talking to each other on the job, or because some products turn out defective. The managers insult their employees and call them imbeciles and idiots.
In spite of our requests, Foxconn refused to open its doors to us. So to discover what goes on inside their Shenzhen factory, we hired 2 young Chinese who agreed to smuggle in our hidden cameras. We met them the day before recruitment to give them the cameras. For several days, they will witness Foxconn's working methods from the inside. These are their first shots. It shows Foxconn's assembly plants spread over many acres, a city within a city. Most of the employees come from the poorest provinces in the country and are hundreds of miles away from home. They're housed on the factory site in huge dormitories. Many are under the age of 20.
Raise your hand when I call your name.
From the very minute they go inside, everyone is expected to follow orders. The roll call goes on forever. Hours of waiting in line to sign their contract.
It's really hot. Why are they doing the roll call again?
Shut up, you're bothering everybody. Stop it, there are hundreds of people waiting because of you. I'll repeat. Everybody must memorize their assigned place. You shut up too. If you want to talk, come up here.
After their contracts are signed, we meet the young Chinese who are filming for us to get their first impressions.
It lasted all day. Every step of the way, there were people giving us orders, like in the army. They were very nasty.
From the beginning, they were assigned to a night shift for iPad quality control, where production never stops. For security reasons, they have to store all metallic objects in these lockers. Impossible to film any further.
We were supposed to work all night for 8 hours and stop at 5 a.m., but they finally decided to add on 2 extra hours.
It was freezing inside. We're not allowed to wear a watch, and there are no clocks in the workrooms. Time drags by. It's horrible.
It was excruciating last night. How can the others stand it? The workers have no other perspective. To make a little money, they ruin their health. And they're under so much pressure. After work, the employees go back to their dorms. They don't talk to each other. They sleep all day and then go right back to work. Nobody really knows anybody else.
Although it is impossible to film the assembly lines, here we see their dormitories. With their time geared to production, they live, sleep, and eat on the premises. This is their cafeteria. We see them seated at the tables, alone.
When I reached my dormitory, there were 2 other girls. One had been working for a year, the other for several weeks. They still hadn't said a word to each other.
In theory, the standard base salary at Foxconn is 220 euros per month, slightly above the legal minimum wage for Shenzhen, but much more than in the provinces where these workers originate. Nevertheless, Foxconn doesn't really pay that amount.
They claim to pay a salary of 220 euros, but that's not actually what you make, because they take out 14 euros for charges and the dorm fee. They take 50 euros for meals, and you also have to pay for your badge. Then you also have to deduct the price of insurance.
The workers all agree that this base salary of 220 euros is really next to nothing. They all hope to do overtime. When the boss called our group together, that's about 600 people, and told us we were going to work the night shift, everyone jumped for joy. At first I didn't understand. Then I realized it was because the pay is better at night.
2 years ago, working conditions at Foxconn raised violent protests. A wave of suicides occurred at the Shenzhen factory. In just 5 months, 14 workers ended their own lives. To find out more about these suicides, we wanted to delve into one of the cases that plunged both Foxconn and Apple into a turmoil. We are in Henan, one of the poorest provinces in the country, and one of the main recruiting grounds for China's workers. Her name is Tian. In March 2010, she died from the 4th floor of her dormitory, 10 days in a coma, 6 months in a hospital, and a devastated life.
I can't go anywhere without my wheelchair.
Do you still have some feeling in your legs?
No, none at all.
And what do you do all day?
I stay here, or sometimes I go outside in the courtyard.
Like most young people in her village, Tian left home at 16 to find work in the Shenzhen region so that she could help her parents.
At the time, one of my cousins worked there. She told me that Foxconn was hiring, and so I went.
What was it that pushed you to attempt suicide?
I don't want to think about it now. It's too sad. I don't want to think about it anymore.
Tianyu's father would explain what she no longer wanted to discuss. She had been assigned to quality control for Apple products and worked 13 hours a day. After one insult too many, she quit. She had tried in vain to collect the money owed to her.
She was a little girl from the country. She'd never been away from her family. There were quite a few bus stops between her dormitory and the payroll office. She kept going back and forth to get the money that Foxconn owed her. But after a while, she didn't even have enough money left to take the bus. She walked all afternoon and into the evening, but to no avail. She was absolutely desperate.
After she was released from the hospital, Foxconn paid her 22,000 euros, barely enough to cover the costs of her physical therapy and treatments. Her parents sold most of their livestock and went into debt.
Foxconn, I never want to hear that name again. We wanted to obtain compensation, but they refused. They said that the company consented to making only a small humanitarian gesture. I thought a lot about this, but we're just peasants. They're a huge company in a very big city. We don't stand a chance against them.
Since this wave of suicides, some very obvious changes have been made at the Shenzhen factory. These security nets installed at each window of every dormitory and of every workshop. Apple guarantees that Foxconn has improved working conditions and allowed checks made by independent inspectors. Foxconn promised that by the following summer, no employee would work beyond the legal limit of 60 hours overtime per month. A hotline called the Love Line has also been set up. Its number 78585 means help me in Chinese. It's printed on all the badges of all the employees. Foxconn also tries to avoid hiring people who are emotionally fragile. From now on, in addition to an interview, all employees must undergo a psychological test.
The questions are ridiculous. For example, they ask if you tend to get depressed or angry. Frankly, if you want to get hired, you don't dare say yes. Besides, the psychological test costs 7 euros.
Anti-suicide nets, an emergency hotline. Even if certain efforts have been made to somewhat improve the workers' daily life at the notorious Shenzhen factory, another nevertheless took place in September. But was this an isolated case? Foxconn has built other factories throughout the country, and it's in those places, according to researcher Shu Hui, that the company puts the strongest pressure on its workers.
In 2010, after the wave of suicides, they accelerated their move into the interior of China. Now they have huge factories in many places. There were riots right here in Taiwan, in Shanxi province. There was also a strike in Zhengzhou, in Henan province, just as the iPhone 5 was being released.
A year ago, Shu Hui got himself hired in one of these new factories. Thanks to Weibo, the main social website in China, he stays in touch with the workers who continue to express their anger. This photo taken at the beginning of October shows a workers' strike, which is still illegal in China. In this video, we see a riot which occurred at the end of September at the Foxconn factory in Taiyuan. 5,000 police were deployed and production was suspended for several hours. The conflict was between dormitory guards and employees who were fed up with their working conditions.
This message says, during the month of October alone, I did 150 hours of overtime. It's the opposite of what Foxconn tells the media about how it keeps to legal overtime. Another worker says that he's been working for 3 months without a single day off.
We decide to go investigate the factory in Zhengzhou, Henan province, in central China. Far away from any workers' rights organizations is the capital of one of the most deprived regions, and where Foxconn has decided to invest. Above all, the minimum wage here is lower. It's the ideal place to have a factory like this built from the ground up in just 2 years. It would be the biggest smartphone assembly plant in the world. It would be entirely dedicated to the iPhone 5. For its launch and to satisfy the huge demand, it was necessary to produce millions of phones in a few weeks, representing a major industrial challenge for Apple. The assembly procedure for the iPhone 5 is particularly delicate. Foxconn admitted this. On condition of anonymity, someone on the production line told us about it.
It was the exterior of the iPhone 5 that posed a problem. We had a hard time finding the right manufacturing method. Our boss really put the pressure on us to meet the demand and told us that if we couldn't find a solution, to get the hell out. So we in turn put more pressure on the assembly lines. We said to the workers, if you can't do it, get out. There were a lot of harsh words.
Apple said they wanted to improve your working conditions. Did they send some inspectors?
Yes, last time apparently they were here for 3 days.
But did any of them question you personally?
No, nobody came to see me.
It seems the workers were ordered to watch what they said if they didn't want to be punished.
Yes, that's true. But anyway, after they left, nothing changed.
To keep up with the huge demand for the iPhone 5, working conditions here were worse than in other places. That's why in October, 3,000 to 4,000 people went on strike, which Foxconn denies. Foxconn is a long way from finishing the infrastructure that is meant to house the 200,000 workers who are employed in its factory. Here also, someone agreed to infiltrate the worksite for us. The employee dormitories are barely finished. Foxconn representatives dictate the rules to new arrivals.
Eight people died in these buildings the day before yesterday. They plugged in high-wattage appliances in their room, and the fire started while they slept. They were So the rules now prohibit these kinds of appliances. It is also strictly forbidden to let anyone who doesn't work for Foxconn into the dormitories. If we discover that happening, you will be fired immediately. You will start out with 100 points that are valid for 6 months at Foxconn. Every time you disobey a rule, we will take away points. If you go below 60 points, you will be fired.
Here also, the employees pay rent for their dormitories. The person who is secretly filming for us is about to discover his room.
The building isn't even finished. It's all still under construction. My dormitory is on the 8th floor. There's no elevator yet. It's not very practical. There's no water or electricity either. This is the view from my room. The safety standards for the buildings and also the transportation facilities are terrible. There are going to be a lot more accidents. This was developed so quickly that Foxconn and the local authorities only thought about building the factories and not about offering a decent environment to the workers.
When Foxconn moves in somewhere, everything changes brutally. To clear the space for this immense factory, the peasants were evicted. Today, all of these little stalls are about to disappear. They provided food and other basic goods to the workers. On this particular day, hundreds of them are being demolished by bulldozers.
These constructions are illegal. The local government has decreed that they must be destroyed.
Did you used to have a shop here?
Yes, they destroyed everything. We used to sell breakfast to the workers. Now we've nowhere to go.
Around the factory, near the cafeteria or in the dormitory area, the person filming for us encounters employees who are infuriated by their living and working conditions.
Every day, 300 people quit. They work a little and then they can't take anymore. Lots of people are leaving every day. That's why they have to keep hiring all the time. I can't work like this anymore either. I'm going to hold out until the end of the year, and then I'm out of here.
To make up for these defections and to keep up with ever-increasing orders, recruitment is massive. We had infiltrated the Foxconn factory on a recruitment day on which more than 2,000 people were hired. But it was still not enough. The company has recourse to other methods. They often use 16-year-old trainees, and it's not always on a voluntary basis. Yu Fengqiang, who belongs to a workers' defense organization, wanted to represent some of these young people, outraged at having been forced to work on the iPhone 5 assembly lines.
It's easy for the schools to supply huge quantities of manpower. For Foxconn, hiring trainees has several advantages. It's less expensive. It's easy on management because they don't have to be trained. Also, these are short-term contracts. And in this particular case, during the launch of the iPhone 5, Foxconn only needed additional manpower for a few months.
These massive hirings of trainees have been perfectly legal since 2010, as we see in this document.
For example, the government tells the universities to send as many trainees as possible to the companies, particularly to those that are short on manpower. They also demand that the most developed regions of the country inform the poorer regions when they're lacking in manpower. Thus, the poor regions will send their students to fill the production lines.
16-year-old students at the mercy of governmental politics. This is a characteristic of the Chinese economic model. The law says that these internships must relate to the students' curriculum. The students must sign on voluntarily and must not work night shifts. But does the Apple subcontractor fully respect this legislation? According to an inside source, there are up to 15,000 trainees at Zhengzhou, where the iPhone 5 is assembled. That amounts to 7% of the workforce. Foxconn refuses to comment. According to Apple, there's only 1/3 that number. Using a hidden camera within the factory grounds, we interviewed 2 young girls. They're 16 years old and have been trainees at Foxconn for 3 months. Contrary to what is legally stipulated, they are here against their own will. You're studying to be a nurse's aide and you're working for Foxconn? Why? What's the connection?
None. We work on the assembly line.
But that has nothing to do with your studies.
No, but it's a school that sent us here. In fact, none of us wanted to do this, but the teacher said it was mandatory.
So do you work day or night shifts?
Both.
And how are you feeling?
Well, not great. It's exhausting.
What would have happened if you had refused to work here?
People said that we would never get our diplomas. I also heard that they could even revoke our scholarships. Our parents are worried. They don't even want us to be here. They tried to negotiate with the school, but it didn't work. They think we're much too young to be in a place like this.
We tried to contact the school to get an explanation. Are some of your students working as trainees for Foxconn right now? At the Zhengzhou factory in Henan province?
That's correct.
But that has nothing to do with their field of studies. So what are they doing there?
You'll have to contact our communications department.
Yes, hello?
I have no information about that. You'll have to talk to the director.
Can you tell me when he'll be back? It's very urgent.
Absolutely not. I have no idea when he'll be in.
Another way of saying that they will not answer our questions. We asked Foxconn about all this. The company maintains that the school is to blame. The local authorities do all they can to facilitate Foxconn's presence in their region, even if it means sacrificing worker rights as well as the environment. 2 years ago, Ma Jun, the head of an NGO for environmental protection, accused the entire electronics industry of industrial pollution. Nokia, Siemens, all the major companies reacted. All except Apple. For this American company, anything relating to its subcontractors was in the realm of industrial secrecy. So Ma Jun's charges became more specific. Other than Foxconn, he investigated 5 other Apple suppliers and went on the spot for direct proof. These are the images he shot. We see his co-workers taking water samples from this canal near Wuhan, which he says has been polluted by a manufacturer of Apple motherboards.
Sometimes they pump the polluted water back into the lake for 10 hours straight. Everything in this lake is contaminated.
These villagers, who live close to another of Apple's subcontractors near Shanghai, are begging the NGO to help stop the water pollution. Faced with a scandal caused by this investigation, Apple finally agreed to receive Ma Jun at their head office in California.
More senior officials from Apple, who said that probably they did not have paid enough attention to the environmental side. They said they did spend quite some efforts on the worker side. So after this whole series of suicide cases and the labor issues, so they kind of feel that they have done quite a lot on that, and they know what is going on. But on the environment side, not enough. They don't have the proper capacity and staffs that can manage this.
Since then, Apple has accepted independent audits and is committed to working for a change in the environmental policies of its subcontractors. For certain people, however, this comes too late. In 2009, Wintec, another of Apple's subcontractors, used a chemical to clean iPhone screens that poisoned 137 people. Jiajing Chuan is one of them. He suffers from a nervous disorder that keeps him from doing any physical work.
Could you tell us how you became ill?
Can we sit down to talk about this?
Why?
Because I get tired very quickly. I can't stand up too long.
Jiajing Chuan worked in the manufacturing process of the first-generation touchscreens for iPhones.
At first, we used alcohol or propanol to wipe the screens clean, like in the other factories. It's current practice to use these types of solvent in the manufacture of electronic products. But with that particular alcohol, 60% of the products did not meet Apple quality control standards, and we couldn't do anything with them.
Wintec then introduced a much more effective product, Hexane. But without any ventilation in the workrooms, the Hexane fumes poisoned the workers. The company stopped using it, but only after 100 people had become ill.
I was feeling so tired. At night before I went to bed, I had terrible cramps. It was so painful. I had abnormal sweating, especially all along my back. It was becoming very serious. If they had started treatment any later, most of us would have had muscle atrophy. The girls who were less resistant lost all feeling in their knees.
Jiajing Chuan spent over 10 months in the hospital for treatment, but nevertheless, his condition leaves him disabled for the rest of his life. He says that the compensation paid by Wintec, 15,000 euros, is not enough to secure his family's future. Apple has told us that they follow up on the medical records of the 137 poisoned workers. Not only has Jiajing Chuan never heard of any kind of follow-up, but he dreams of one day slapping Apple with a class action lawsuit.
My lawyer told me that Foxconn, another Apple subcontractor, also has a lot of problems and victims like me. Cases of recruiting trainees or insufficient safety norms. We should all band together and take them to court.
A class action lawsuit against Apple. Only a dream for now. Very rare are those who actually take matters to court. Chu Hui, investigating in Canton, would like us to meet the family of 26-year-old Zhang Tingzhen. In 2011, following a work accident at the Foxconn factory in Shenzhen, this engineer underwent the ablation of almost half of his brain. He did not come out of his coma until a few weeks ago.
Who am I? Who am I?
It's your mom. It's your mom. No, not me, her over there.
Don't pester him.
That's your mom. I'm your dad, and over there is your mom.
Hello, Mom.
He doesn't recognize anyone.
Today, Zhang Tingzhen's father is engaged in an unprecedented judicial battle against Foxconn because he suspects that they want to pay the least they can for his son's accident.
Last July the 6th, several Foxconn officers and 5 other company representatives tried to force us to have his degree of disability established by experts at a different hospital, located in the Huizhou region.
By their trying to have the certificate of disability established in another region, a poorer region where social benefits are much lower, the father is afraid that Foxconn is trying to lower the rate of compensation, which is all his son will have to live on once he is released from the hospital.
My son was hired in Shenzhen. He worked in Shenzhen. His salary was paid in Shenzhen. The site of the accident was also in Shenzhen, in the Longhua industrial zone. But out of nowhere, his contract was suddenly transferred to the Huizhou region. But I'm not a weak man. I need to get all this settled in a court of law.
Zhang Guanjie has given up everything to stay close to his son. He has left the Henan region along with his wife and daughter. Together, they occupy a rented room within the hospital grounds.
My daughter sleeps here in this room. There's room for only one person. So I often sleep on a bench on the first floor.
Do you sleep there every night? Isn't it very tiring for you?
Yes, of course, but I have no choice. My son brought his fiancée to Foxconn so they could work together. They helped each other. As a parent, I felt reassured about that. If all had gone well, they would have returned home to us during the spring vacation of 2011 and got married.
Every evening at 6 or 7, when the local market closes, my father goes to collect whatever is left over. We only buy the eggs. He brings back any vegetables he can find. I cook rice soup with all that. I feel helpless and very tired.
Zhang Guanjie finally obtained a first hearing before a court of arbitration. This will rule on where his son's contract with Foxconn had been signed. A handful of journalists showed up to cover such a rare event, a worker's family and their lawyer challenging the giant Foxconn. Zhang Guanzhe will stop at nothing to obtain a public hearing, including an unauthorized demonstration, which is forbidden in China.
Go on, bring out the banner.
No, wait for the decision.
Whatever they decide, I'll do it.
You should wait for the decision.
I'll do it anyway because Foxconn is like the mafia.
But if the ruling's in your favor, you won't need to put up the banner.
I'm not only doing this for my son, but also for all the victims of Foxconn. I want justice for all of their victims. I'm ready to die for this.
Swayed by such determination, the judge concedes and allows the public to enter the courtroom with him. The Foxconn representatives are present. But the hearing is suddenly adjourned.
The hearing was supposed to have taken place behind closed doors, and now there's no hearing at all? Why weren't you informed of this before? What is the meaning of this? That you're siding with Foxconn?
They're collaborating with Foxconn. You are not real Chinese. You're traitors. You despise the humble workers of China. You are traitors. The officials of this court, along with the Communist Party officials, are in league with Foxconn. They stick together so they can crush the people.
1 month later, the Court of Arbitration's decision went against the father. The court established that the contract had in fact been signed in the poorer region of Huizhou. Zhang Guanzhe appealed. During his battle, he could not count on any of the independent unions for help. The only ones that stood by the workers were the small workers' defense organizations like China Labor Watch, which has become the bête noire of Foxconn and the Chinese authorities. We had agreed to meet them in Shenzhen, not far from the factory. An hour goes by, then the entire day, but no one turns up. We get an explanation the next day over the phone.
At about 11:30, 2 hours before our appointment with you, all of a sudden, several policemen in uniform burst into our office. And they demanded that we follow them. At the police station, they searched us and took all our belongings. We were detained for several hours. Afterwards, they explicitly ordered us not to answer any of your questions.
Working conditions at Foxconn, a sensitive subject that the Chinese authorities would prefer to keep secret. To finally meet with this organization, we arranged an appointment at the opposite end of the country, about 100 kilometers from Beijing.
Apart from my airline ticket, which has to have my real name on it when I come here, I register at the hotel under a false name. I change my phone number, and I use someone else's papers in order to leave no trail.
After having completed a dozen reports on Apple subcontractors, Hua Haifeng is now investigating another giant in the field of electronics, Samsung, whose biggest factory is located here in Tian. To collect information, he gets himself hired on the assembly lines, but he also conducts detailed interviews with the Chinese workers, an opportunity to inform them of their rights.
If a lot of quality control problems occur on your line, are you penalized?
Yes, but if the problems are not too serious, you can get by with a letter of apology.
You have to write a letter of apology?
Yes, that's right. But if it happens again, it's deducted from your salary.
Are you given a copy of your contract after you've signed it?
No, the company keeps everything.
In theory, there should be 2 copies of the contract, and your company must give you one. Otherwise, if a problem occurs, without a copy, you can't defend yourself, and that's not right. We inform the workers of their rights, and we hope that they become more aware. For example, the matter of payment for a medical examination isn't clearly covered by law, but it's considered to be illegal. But regarding inadequate housing, or bad food, or insults, the problem is not that it's illegal. There are no laws to cover these conditions, but the workers must understand that they are unacceptable.
Were you aware of these problems before?
No. But anyway, who do I turn to for help? I'd really like to leave this company. I hate this work.
The work of China Labor Watch is starting to show results. Thanks to media pressure, its reports are starting to be heard by the giant electronics industries like Apple, which dictates its orders to Foxconn. But the task is immense. During our filming, we learned that at the Foxconn factory in Zhengzhou, the one that we had infiltrated, a 22-year-old employee had just committed suicide. He worked on the assembly lines that manufactured motherboards for the iPhone 5. His family staged a protest outside the factory. A worker slipped us a photo of this illegal demonstration. The following day, we managed to reach the brother by phone. He attributed the suicide to the harsh working conditions.
He hanged himself beside the factory.
How long had your little brother been working there?
My brother had been working at the Foxconn factory for over a year. He had told me he was under a lot of pressure. On the evening before the suicide, he called me. He said they were putting more and more pressure on him, that he couldn't take it anymore, and that he wanted to quit. But that the company wouldn't let him go. I don't know why. No, I'm sorry, I didn't listen to him. I tried to console him. I told him not to worry about it so much. I never imagined that he'd go as far as... We can't bring him back to life. All we can do is to wait and see how Foxconn will react.
3 days later, the family gathered in the center of town, preparing to demonstrate again in front of Foxconn. We meet Jin Zhongfang's brother. He's the one we had spoken to over the phone.
Was that your brother?
Yes, that was him. He went to work there because there were Foxconn employment offers everywhere in our village. According to the propaganda, the working conditions are good and everything will be just fine.
He and his father demand compensation from Foxconn. Some of the Chinese media have been invited. None of them show up. Just before the protest is about to begin, the company phones the father. He leaves to attend a final negotiation. A few minutes later, he phones his son.
Hello, Father. How'd it go? So what can we do? So call off the demonstration? We give up just like that?
Lin Xiaofeng has just learned that according to the contract signed by his brother, Foxconn is exempt from all liability in cases of excessive behavior, such as his brother also left a suicide note. He mentioned the daily pressure he was under, but also his suffering as a child. The family is now convinced that in case of a hearing, the court will reject their claim.
We can't do anything about it. It doesn't matter whether we protest or not.
Only the wealthy have any power.
No, those are the company regulations.
But those regulations are not laws.
Those are the rules and we must obey them. We can't do anything else.
After signing the agreement, the family comes to take away Jin Zhongfang's body from the hospital morgue in the presence of Foxconn representatives. Foxconn agreed to make one gesture, 2,500 euros compensation, as well as a final settlement in exchange for their silence, a clause to which the family objects. At the crematorium, the family does away with the belongings of the deceased before taking his ashes to their village, about 100 kilometers away.
Everything has been unfair from the very beginning. Everything is so unjust. This morning I went to collect his things at the dormitory. People behaved as if they didn't know anything about it. Everyone was so cold, completely insensitive.
If Foxconn finds out that we have defamed them, they won't give us the money. What kind of rules are those? And what about freedom of speech? Doesn't that exist? What are all these laws that only apply to the rich?
We questioned Foxconn. They replied that the company had no knowledge of this recent suicide. Nothing of that nature had happened at their factory.
At present, only Apple can put pressure on a group as powerful as Foxconn. After I had infiltrated Foxconn, during one of the first few days of training, the manager said that Foxconn didn't give a damn about what the media said about them. All they were concerned about was maintaining product quality and satisfying the client. That's why Apple is largely to blame.
In November, Foxconn announced that within the next 2 years, 1 million robots would replace most Chinese workers. When asked to comment about this, Apple sent a vague answer by email. To start out with, Apple said that its subcontractors are required to offer their employees working conditions that guarantee their optimum safety, their respect, and their dignity.